Thank you very much for inviting me here. Am I audible? Can we get the lights up a little bit, if possible? Be good to see you. I hope to make this, put the lights up, maybe we'll have more light. I hope to make this as interactive as possible. Yeah. Okay. So first, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you all for inviting me here. I'd like to thank Trustee, who is here, who wrote most of the work here. Since we were told to do this, she's the one who's been tirelessly working on this. So I want to thank her, and I want to mention Hebbar, who actually, we will decide at the end of the session whether I should thank him or curse him. And you have him to thank and curse depending on how it goes today. But he is a dear friend. We were in college together, and he's been working with Kunal off and on, and he suggested that I should come here. Till this came up, I also want to thank Manu, who is here today. He's a tech colleague, friend of mine who ran Geometric. And when I was doing this, I said, well, I have no clue what this is all about. It turns out he used to run a jewelry business in his first life. So he has some domain knowledge, and I sort of used him a bit to get things. So all the hard questions that you ask me, I have someone who is an expert who's going to answer them, okay? As far as I'm concerned, my understanding of the jewelry business is only the credit card. Basically, when my wife spends money, I see the number. And it's a big number usually, so it's clearly an important business here. Very briefly, just a bit of the bias. I'm a complete outsider to this industry. I have no understanding of the jewelry business at all. I'm essentially a programmer or a computer science trained person, been doing software for the last 30 years as persistent systems. I'm really interested in the skill business, partly through a foundation that I run called Deyasra Foundation, where I'm really focused on helping small businesses to happen. And we are at about 58,000 businesses supported, growing at about 5,000 a month. So this is really something that I'm very passionate about, and I was very excited to be part of the skill-related activity here. I'm also on the board of Aadhaar right now, and I do mostly data-related work. Okay, so a lot of the stuff that I'm saying has no no understanding of the jewelry business. I've used friends to learn a little bit more, and hopefully we'll talk a little bit about what's happening. And I'm trying to give you an outside industry perspective on trying to project it on the jewelry industry, so we'll see how that works. So right now what I see is that every industry is getting completely disrupted through digital transformation. And you can look at this globally when you look at cars as Tesla or the Nest or many other sort of traditional businesses completely being transformed by tech and software companies. And I was trying to look at, is there something similar here in the jewelry industry? And that's sort of what we've been trying to explore, and would love to learn more about how tech and technology and digital transformation can reform the jewelry industry here. Okay. Clearly, every time there is a disruption, there are new opportunities that get created. And here again, there I think are lots of new opportunities that are going to happen. And one of them I find is very interesting is this whole demographics of India, which is creating a new set of opportunities here. If you look at India as such, the top part, maybe they use global products, but there is a new opportunity in the middle segment here, where you have nearly 750 million people who are the aspiring Indians. And I think their aspirations are not adequately met in the past. Tech and various other places, the ability to do payments and all the other things that have happened have started to make this really a very interesting opportunity for all of us. We also see, just one second. We also see a new kind of consumer and potentially a new kind of jewelry with the young people trying to buy digital products as part of the jewelry industry. So before, as a software person, if I'm asked to say, okay, talk on something, it's much better for me to frame the problem first to understand if what I'm going to talk about, does it make sense to the audience, and am I really on the right page? And here I need your help, okay? So I'm trying to use a method for doing this, and I would love to get your opinion on if I'm on the right topic or not. So normally in software, what we do is if you are designing a new product, the first thing you try to do is to find the characters and personalize it. So I've created these three fictitious people. One is Rekha Kulkarni, who is a buyer, who's potentially a 43-year-old professional who likes jewelry, and her daughter Priya. So that's just a buyer as a personification of that person. I created this fake brand called Oraka, which, if you look at jewelry in Maori, that's what it is. So that's just a fake brand, which is a retail brand all across India. And then we created this whole thing called JM Diamonds, which is jewelry manufacturing company around here. So if I were to look at the audience here, how many of you would be jewelry manufacturers in this room? That's most of you, I guess. How many of you are in the retail business? Some of you. And I guess every one of you in some form or the other is either buying jewelry or paying for it. So essentially, this is what Heber told me as to how you all operate, and I would just want to make sure that he told me the right things. So JM Diamond makes hundreds of designs typically, and then these designs are showcased to the jewelry retailers. And then, Orca, such as retailers, will pick some of these designs as saying this is sort of important or this is what they would like to sell. Then they get the diamonds people to make those designs at scale. And finally, they hit retail, and then they are sold to the market. So this is sort of what I have made an assumption on how the sort of process works. Am I okay so far? Any other things you would suggest? So, when you want to do something like this, you need to define what is success and what is not success. So for me, from what I was looking at, when Rekha buys some jewelry, that is success, meaning some sale actually happened from the industry point of view. It would be even better if Rekha buys jewelry that was made by JM Diamonds. So since I made the diamonds, it'd be nice if they bought it from me. But even if they didn't buy my diamonds, at least they bought something that's good for the industry. So that would be, I would call success. On the other hand, what I say is failure is that if Rekha wanted to buy something but could not find it, because of whatever reasons, there is an intent to buy, but the fulfillment did not happen because maybe the design was not right, or the cost was not right, or maybe the availability was not there, or whatever else. So the fact that I could not fulfill a demand that happened really is a failure. The challenge, of course, is to reduce the effort, the cost, and the inventory and everything else that happens between the fact that it is thought of, conceived, manufactured, built, while Rekha is going to go buy the jewelry on her own, and we don't know what she might buy. So what I'm trying to think about is how do we address this kind of a situation where we get better clarity in terms of making sure that when the intent is expressed to the fact that she buys, how do we do whatever can be done to make that happen? And since I'm from the software industry, people have been using machine learning and artificial intelligence to solve these problems. So I'm going to try to apply some of those techniques to some of these areas. So that's really what I'm trying to do. And the opportunity is to say that, when you have a customer like Rekha, how do we get her to buy more? Instead of just buying one, can she buy more jewelry or more kinds of things? And then if you have Rekha who is buying, how do we get more people, maybe the Asha, Bhavna or Chitra, to show up to buy more jewelry, right? So how can we increase the market overall to make this happen? So this is really, for me to run a machine learning problem on some of these things, it's important for us in the software industry to be able to frame the problem in a way that it can be then said, okay, this is really what I'm trying to answer. So I'll take a short look here and see if this makes sense, or is there some important thing that I have completely missed out, or any of those kinds of things. I'm going to also do one more thing. This is pretty warm here, so I'm going to remove my coat. So am I doing all right here? Yes? Please, let's make this interactive as far as possible. If you engage, that'll be good. Okay, the other thing is that I was trying to look at the timeline, it's saying what exactly happens in this process from the buyer's point of view. When I shared the manufacturing process, that was one way to do it. So here is clearly now Rekha explores Orca. She wants to go buy from Orca some jewel, so she goes looking around for it. She likes some diamond pendant for her daughter, 18th birthday, whatever. And the question to ask is, what motivated her to buy this pendant? How did she make that decision to buy? How did she know that she should go to Orca to buy it? So how did we get Rekha in the first place to think of diamond as something for her daughter's 18th birthday? And can we influence that whole process so that she goes, and everyone else who's buying can think of, oh, there's an 18th birthday, maybe I should go buy jewelry, and I should go buy from this place. Because, clearly market expansion and getting the right buyer into the store is an important part of how this whole process can be worked out. On the other hand, she liked a diamond that was made by the pendant from JM Diamonds, and if it was there on the store, she picked it up, took it home. That was great. It was an instant success. She paid the money, and it's wonderful. In some cases, maybe that particular selection that she made was not in stock. Then what did she have to do it? And so, Orca is trying to identify what kind of stock should they keep, how do they know what will get bought, and also what designs are they likely to buy, what ones are they likely to like, what are the things that are trending at this moment in the season, so that when they are designing these, they are looking at market potential for those designs, because everything extra that you make that is not sold is potentially a waste in some form or the other. So how do we influence this whole process? And then finally, you manufacture the diamond comes home, and then how do we anticipate what she's likely to buy, who would be the buyer, and all of these kinds of questions are questions that are important to think about. Again, what I was trying to do here is that, of course, there is a specific problem that was addressed in terms of improving hit ratio and various other things, and I'm going to come to that in a minute. But the point is that the whole idea is that if you are able to find a way to engage better with the customer Rekha, to the extent that you know what she's going to buy and what her buying is, or you can influence her to buy things that you are going to make, then the combination of anticipating and creating demand and the ability to fulfill that demand for a period that might happen somewhere in the future is really the complexity of the problem that we are trying to address and solve. Okay, all right. So then what I try to do is try to make a list of some of the problems that if I have to put machine learning against, what would those problems look like? So from the jewelry manufacturer's point of view, how do we make new innovative designs that will trend this season? Because again, there's a time involved in this thing. How long is the season? How do you decide? What should you manufacture? How can we make these designs in advance so that people have them ready for consumption? And then how do we make this whole process of making the design to getting the buyer decide or the retailer decide what should be put on the shelf? And then, how do you manufacture these designs? And clearly, from the jewelry retailer's point of view also, there are a whole bunch of questions that would be appropriate. So this is the normal process that we try to do when we are building a software system, is to first identify and understand the people who are the players in the game. So I was trying to do a little bit of a personification in this whole concept by picking these three characters and all that. Sometimes it's much easier to look at them when you put real humans or real people on these kinds of stories to get this kind of thing to happen. Then, to get to the right problem, we need to identify what problems we are trying to solve. What is success? What is failure? What exactly are we trying to do? So this is where I am at the moment, and just wanted to get that, if this makes sense, or if there are any other big problems that I have completely missed out that I should have thought of. Yeah?